welcome to chapter 1 of the paintalong Wight King. In this chapter we will assemble the king. First we take a look at our weapons of choice. We need a side cutter, a hobby knife with a fresh blade, sandpaper with a 400 and 1000 grit. As plastic glue I use Tamir extra thin cement because of the small brush for ultimate control. But you can use whatever plastic glue you prefer. A soft brush to remove the dust is quite handy, but not necessary. Unfortunately, we're also going to need some milliput and some color shapers to fill some nasty gaps. We are not going to fully assemble the king, so it will be easier to painting. We take the side cutter and clip off the pieces carefully. Don't cut directly on the miniature, but a millimeter away from it to avoid damage or holes. We will remove the rest with a hobby knife later. If they are very thin parts, like the lance or the leg of the horse, cut these first to get sure it won't break when you cut the rest. To remove the rest of the sprue from the pieces, we use the hobby knife. With a cutting motion, we remove the rest. Be careful that you don't cut yourself. These blades are very sharp, and even though it looks kinda dangerous how I do it, I didn't cut myself in the last few years. We also want to remove the mold lines. With our knife we can easily scratch it off, and that is sometimes enough for a clean look. But to be sure we have a smooth surface, we are going to use some sandpaper. I start with a 400 grit and finish with a 1000 grit. Most of the time I start with a 400 grit and then finish with a 1000 grit. But most of the time the 1000 grit is enough. If you want to save some time, just use this one right from the get-go. The good part about sandpaper is that you can sand the smallest gaps. We want to be sure that there's nothing left of these mold lines. Before I glue the parts together, I check if they fit, and if not, I clean a bit more. Then I apply the glue on both sides and press the pieces together. A tricky part is the torso. Apply the glue on both pieces. Put the torso into the horse part sideways and then twist it. It will kinda snap in, but you have to be careful or you will split the horse again. After that I added the hilt part 5 and the head part 6. I recommend to not glue on the head or you will have some trouble to paint the jaw. I wanted to avoid having too many single pieces, so I glued it on right away, and that was kind of a mistake. We also keep the cape, the shield, and the lance separate to reach everything while painting. You can see that there are some gaps on the shoulder. We have to fill them after we finished the cape. As I mentioned in the beginning, there's some gaps to fill. Most of them are on the horse. There's also a gap on the back of the saddle. But if you check the placement of the cape, we see that you won't notice it afterwards, so you don't have to fix it. The gaps of the king himself will be filled later, as I already mentioned. Usually you can use some super glue, but these gaps here are quite big, so we are going to use milliput. It comes in two components that you have to net together for around 5 minutes. It should look like this when you're done. For this task I use a flat and a round color shaper. These are the hard ones, but I'm sure you can use the soft ones as well. I take some milliput, place it where I want it, and press it on with the shaper to fill the hole. Then I remove the excess. If I remove too much, I just put some back and press it on again. And with a damp shaper, I can smooth it out. And here you can see all the gaps I had to fill on the horse. which are quite a lot. And yeah, that's it. The worst part is done and we can finally start painting. In the next part we'll paint the bones and I hope to see you there.